Well, hello everyone. Thank you guys for being here today. I think we're going to have a conversation in a very small circle. But I'm honored to serve as a chair for this forum. I think it's a very important topic, especially these days. And hopefully, graduate students who will potentially access this recording uh, will feel the spirit of our uh, peer collaboration and change too. So today's session brings together graduate students from across institutions who are leaders of graduate student organizations and or graduate student committees. They're doing remarkable work, not only in their research, but in building stronger and more supportive graduate communities. And today's forum came together from a shared idea that the graduate student experience doesn't have to be isolating or disempowering. It can and it should be inclusive, collaborative, and grounded in mutual support. And as graduate students, we wear many hats. We are researchers, but also we are teachers, we are mentees, sometimes we're even mentors too. We navigate funding structures, labor conditions, job markets, and very increasingly uncertain political climates. And yet we can find a way to support one another. Wait, can I? Okay, yes. Uh, and to create a space when we feel safe. So this forum is about to make these efforts visible and sharing them with one another. And maybe we can reflect on what's working for us, on our own experiences in our institutions. And yes, now maybe I can, yes. So this is the outline of potential topics that we're going to talk about today. We will talk about navigating fellowships and research funding amidst shifting political conditions. We will share strategies for engagement and bridge building across the Slavic field. We will speak about inclusivity and the importance of peer support. We will offer insight into preparing for and navigating the job market. And then we will also offer insights into the everyday life situation of graduate students, balance in teaching, housing, academic demands, etc., etc. We will hear from these incredible panelists today, each speaking from experience on a specific aspect of graduate student life and advocacy. But since this is a forum, it doesn't mean that we will have one presentation on one aspect. Instead, I invite all participants to um, to join the conversation and to add their own opinions. We will have a 15-minute discussion also or question from the audience in the end of this forum. So, well, let's get started. So, Emil, you will kick us off by talking about fellowships, grants, and yeah, what it means to found your research today in today's political climate.
Well, yeah. Well, first, what I want to start with is to kind of like take a moment to kind of remember what happened on my campus last week. We had a mass shooting. I was on campus at the time. I had to seek shelter. Well, I was already in a building, so I had to like, shelter in place. But unfortunately, 2 people were killed and 6 people were injured. 5 or 6, I don't remember exactly, but as you can see, mourning here, and it's been a very difficult time. So, and I believe that affects all of us because gun violence is a big issue, right? And it affects different groups of students on different campuses across in different educational places. And there's a lot of things that I want to say, but I just had a tooth extraction, and also there's a lot of emotions going on. So what I want to do is just basically take a moment of silence um, to honor the people that were directly and indirectly affected by the shooting that happened on the Tallahassee campus of Florida State University last week. I think we can move on um, um, to the next slide. Aselle, yeah. So for those of you who are watching at home, I guess for those of you who are watching at home, so what I'm going to talk about is about different funding opportunities, and the idea is not to like endorse them or to tell them how to apply for them. This presentation is just to familiarize you with these different funding opportunities that are available to you. We, as a group of graduate students, are not given advice of how to apply for these grants, nor can we guarantee that these funding sources still have the same opportunities that they advertise on their website, so that we knew about prior to the conference. We're not acting like as this advertisers for any of the foundations, associations, or fellowships, nor were we approached by any of them to include them in the presentation. This is just a disclaimer. But we all know that there have been significant cuts to different funding sources across the United States. And a lot of those sources, they're federal sources, so they depend on the federal money. However, despite those cuts, there are also private foundations and private fellowships that we can apply for as people that represent the humanities and social sciences. And we can move to the next slide. Um, and why is it even important to think about things like self-funding? Because I'm sure a lot of us get funding through our universities. We are teaching assistants, or we're research assistants, or we do different like programming things. However, we also know that sometimes the funding offers that we get are limited in a number of years. And what we have to think about is how we can fund ourselves post the years that we're guaranteed the funding for. And maybe there are different research projects that we can take on. So this is when self-funding becomes very, very important, because by applying for different grants or fellowships or funding opportunities, we can self-fund ourselves and not rely necessarily on the institutional support that can sometimes be limited. And why exactly would we want to focus on private funding sources? Well, as someone told me recently, a lot of attention is paid to the federal grant like resources, right? Like the National Endowment for Humanities, NIH, what is it? God, I can and National Science Foundation, NSF, right? A lot of people usually turn to those to apply for grants. I mean, those are usually for like STEM or social sciences. But like the National Endowment for Humanities is directly for the humanities. So a lot of people are paying attention to those, but people forget that they're also private funding sources, and not as many people apply for the grants that are available for those private funding sources. So actually, you have less competition because people are focused on the federal resources, and you can just focus on the private ones, and there's money there too. And why is it important to learn to apply for funding? Well, when we go in the job market, one of the important skills that the employers are looking for right now, especially in academia, is how well you can prepare grant applications, because sometimes that can be one of the reasons that you're hired, because they want to see how much money you can bring, right? Whether or not you can fund yourself, right? Or like the TAs or like RAs that you may hire as a professor when you have a position. So this is a very important skill that you should develop in graduate school. And there's just some examples of different foundations. And I sent Aselle a document. Aselle, would you mind putting it in the chat? It can just make it available to everyone, and we can just make it available to everyone after the conference too.
Uh,
On
I think Natasha has a better situation because I'm sharing the
Okay, I
screen.
can send it.
If I go
I can
out, now the
I
presentation?
have the link I can share.
Okay.
Okay,
If you can
cool.
share it, yeah. So it basically has links to different foundations and different um, travel and professional development grants that people can apply. And these are just some of the private foundations that provide funding for people that are in the humanities and social sciences. So the Spencer Foundation, the Mellon Foundation, the Ford Foundation, they are focused on advancing the humanities, social sciences. The Spencer Foundation is specifically for education. The Mellon Foundation, I think, is more for the humanities. The Smithsonian Institution, although I think they're also experiencing certain cuts, offer fellowships, especially for people that are interested in museum studies, history, so disciplines that may align with the humanities. Duolingo offers grants for graduate students that are writing their dissertations on second language learning. So that's something to consider. You can receive up to $5,000. I'm not sure what exactly you can use the money for, but that is good money. And the Josephine de Carmen Fellowship is a fellowship available to students at select California institutions, I believe. So it's not available to everyone across the country, but it is available to international students. But as far as I know, I cannot speak for all of them, but Duolingo and the Josephine de Carmen Fellowship are available to international students. But that's also something you should check. So I would not, like, please don't quote me at that. But as far as I know, the grants that they have can be available to people that are non-citizens. They can move next to the next slide. So here you just have kind of like the list of these private funding sources, these different foundations and fellowships that you can apply for. And I've mentioned all of them so far, with the exception of ASEES, which stands for Association for Slavic, East European, Eurasian Studies. And I know that Brian is the one that represents ASEES. However, based on what I know, I can tell you that there are different grants that they offer for graduate students that are working on a dissertation that's in that is take like where the data collection is taking place within one of the regions that fall within like Slavic, East European, and Eurasian studies, right? And then they also have a summer writing grant for people that are working on a dissertation. I believe you can receive up to $6,000, and these are available to, I think, all students within the United States, regardless of their citizenship. And then they also have, I think they also have an internship grant. And I think you can qualify for the grant if you find an internship that is underpaid or not paid at all, in a site that is not academic. So for example, if you get an internship at a museum or like at a private or like a company or like a government institution, you can qualify for this internship and be basically paid for SCs, even though your internship may be unpaid. So these are the funding sources for like that kind of give you quite a lot of money to conduct different projects or to support your dissertation writing, or to support your study that you're doing for your dissertation or for any other reason. But there are also funding sources that are available to you if you want to establish and support your scholarly presence. And if you could move to the next slide, that would be awesome. Those are all in the document that we shared. So for anyone who is interested, please contact us and we'll be more than happy to share the document. All these different organizations within the field and kind of outside the field of Russian language teaching, right, have different convention grants or travel grants or graduate awards, whatever they call them, that can support your participation or even just attendance at their conventions and conferences. So for example, ASEES has different travel grants, such as the Diversity and Inclusion Travel Grant or the Graduate Travel Grant. Atsil can offset the cost of your registration if you're a graduate student, so you have to apply, but there's a specific window within which you have to apply, and I think it's usually 2 months before the conference. It opens up in the fall. ACTR has the Olga Kagan grant, right? Of the professional development one, and I think maybe Natasha, I think, had it, right? If, as far as I remember, it's Natasha may speak.
Yes, I did. It's a professional development grant allowing students to attend a professional development event nationally. I would say mostly online because they can probably cover um, an online fee because it's usually cheaper, but it's still valuable.
Yeah, it's like if you want to participate in something, even if, and I think I think some people have also used it for conferences. So like maybe they could receive some institutional funding, but there wasn't enough, and they could get some money from ACTR, and they could apply it to the total cost. The only thing is, I think every year the funds are allocated for different groups of people. I think this year it's K-12 teachers, but I think they're going back to higher ed next year, but it's not, I don't remember if it's going to be like faculty or if it's going to be graduate students. But then there are also associations that are not necessarily be directly related to like the Slavic Eurasian studies, right? Those would include ACTFL, AAAL, in ARA. So if you do social science research, you're probably interested in attending AAAL and ARA because AAAL is American Association of Applied Linguistics and ARA is American Educational Research Association. And they have, ARA has like a graduate student support program where I think you can receive up to $500 to go to the convention. I think the AAAL grant can give you money to offset the cost of the registration, but I'm not sure about that. And Actual has the first time attendee grant, which gives you money to attend the convention, right, for language teaching for the very first time. And I think it's quite a generous travel grant. So yeah, so if there are other conferences, obviously like the less commonly taught languages conference, what's happening right now, based on what I know, they also have different travel programs, but within different conferences, it always makes sense to look into like what they may offer for graduate students because quite a few offer at least some kind of support. Maybe they may not be able to cover all of like kind of like your participation fully. Maybe they can only offer you money. Like for example, at Seal can only cover the registration, and ICs can cover, can give you up to $500, which is much more, right? Because it can also cover, it can cover the registration, it can cover like the travel, maybe some of the hotel, depending on where you're going from and where the convention is. But also, I know that if you're participating in a Cs, you can, like if you're presenting, you can also qualify for like student rooms, right? You get a student rate or something. So different opportunities available. And I think I've already spoken enough. And Brian, is there anything you would like to add? I'm sorry if I like spoke over you.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to go back to what you said earlier about the ACs stuff. So ACs does, as Emil already said, has several grants available to everyone, to grad students specifically. So there is the Cohen Tucker dissertation fellowship program. There's also the AC summer dissertation writing program, and there's also the AC dissertation research grant program. So all of these are available to students who are in the US. There's one specific one that's also open to Canadian students. I think that one's called the Bailey. Give me a second. It's called the Bailey Dissertation Research Grant, and that's available to both the US and Canadian students. Um, but unfortunately, because how AC's funding structures are, how the AC's funding packages are structured, they cannot offer it to outside of the US institution, students outside of the US.
Mhm.
Um, and I also wanted to add on the importance of finding funding or money, right? Just bluntly speaking, money outside of our field, right? Because while our funding pool has always kind of been small, right? We also see that a lot of sciences and also recently have been feeling this funding crunch that has been brought on by the downsizing, to put it lightly, of the federal government. But nevertheless, one of the most important lessons that I've learned from my professors is the importance of branching out and finding money wherever you can. So I think this will get into one of our topics a little later about building bridges across different disciplines and the importance of multi and disciplinarity. Um, is find so beyond the stuff like Mellon Foundation and stuff that are strictly humanities based, but also finding stuff that's or social science based, also finding ways to get into sciences where where some of the bigger research funds come from. And this is something that us here at UAC in the department, in the Center for American Indian Studies, where they've been very successful, is looking at indigenous science. So blending indigenous studies in science. So this is something I think a lot of us need to think about is how do we bring in the sciences, even though we might not be scientists, right? But we can bridge our work this way, especially because there is this distinct lack of humanities research and the importance of humanities research in sciences. So bridging that gap, I think, will also bring a lot of help for grad students who are trying to find money outside of our field because while everyone's struggling, we have historically always struggled. So I think it's more than high time to branch out and really embrace multidisciplinarity.
Yeah, and I agree with Brian. And also, like, that's something I didn't say, but like, also explore the options that the university has, right? Sometimes they're different graduate centers and they're different like innovation labs, and they may have money. And again, like those innovation labs, people usually think it's for people that do like 3D modeling and things like that, but they could actually be for a lot of people. And it can be also helpful for you to fund like your future projects, even though you may think, well, I study the humanities, like how am I going to get the money from the innovation lab? Well, there are actually different ways you can do that. So yeah, thanks everyone. I'm like,
Excellent.
ugh. Sorry. I know it's
Great.
not professional behavior, but I'm like, ugh, my tooth.
I hope the обезболивание will pass soon. I know
I
that
have
in the
my
United States
prescription here.
they make a big dose. So Emil, I feel thank you very much for your patience. Uh, okay, we proceed, and I realize that all these waiting room notifications they keep receiving is for the main room, not for our breakout room, and I got very sad because I'm a host, apparent co-host for apparently the whole Zoom link. Anyway, time to move on to our next topic, graduate student engagement, and I give the floor to Diana Avdeeva.
Thank you so much, Aselle. Can I ask you, can you just click through the animation? I thought I turned it off, but just do not to bother you. Yeah, just click through on this slide. So yeah, hey everybody who's watching. Hi everybody who's here. Yeah, my name is Diana Avdeeva. I'm a graduate student at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, and my part of the presentation is about like extracurricular activities, projects, and other things like that. So I believe that engagement, student engagement beyond the curriculum has many benefits, and some of them are listed on the slide. To my mind, it develops leadership and initiative, fosters creativity and intellectual autonomy, introduces new perspectives and ideas into, the curriculum as well, but also beyond it. Builds community, combats isolation that we struggle with a lot as graduate students focused on our homework, research, and other things. Enhances academic and professional visibility because you get to either collaborate with other people or like share your project with others, and they come and, I don't know, visit it or contribute. And so that way you have this, academic and professional visibility, and increases student engagement, increases engagement in teaching, because some of the projects I'll show you we created with my professors, supervisors as part of teaching Russian courses with students. So there are all sorts of projects that one can come up with. It could be digital archives and exhibits. It could be research and study groups. It could be translation initiative of things that haven't been translated before. Like Brian, I do some of like indigenous studies, so I'm personally interested in bringing like the indigenous languages of Russia into into focus, I guess, spotlight, literature, culture, and things like that. Could be graduate student conferences that some of my other colleagues could tell us more about, and various teaching and learning resources. Now, Well, from my experience, my projects are usually unfunded. It would be great to get some funding, and I learned a lot from Emil just now. But also, again, due to all sorts of cuts and stuff, yeah, we might be a little bit like this cat here, like, yeah, great, I feel very fulfilled, but I might not have any money. If we could go to the next slide, I just have, I think, a few examples. So yeah, this project, I think it was called Art for Peace. Yes, right there, Art for Peace, a student project that analyzes anti-war Russian and Ukrainian art. I did it with my colleague, Asya Gorlova from U of A, University of Arizona, when I was there. And it was basically, I think it was 201, second Russian language course where students were given some pieces of art, again, Russian, Ukrainian, anti-war art, and they were to analyze it, write some part in Russian, some part in English, more of a reflective kind of thing. So it could be something like that. And it's a WordPress website that is like free to make, and students posted, students were given, I think, admin functions so they could make the post themselves. And now we like have this thing, kind of hopefully fun for students to look at, like, oh, their work is online. If we go to the next slide, this is another project that I did with the professor, with Dr. Williams, Veronica Williams from also U of A. That was, I think it was actually a first level Russian. So we did inside an encyclopedia of Russian opposition. Our students were given different Russian like political figures, and they were to write a little biography, maybe pick their favorite quote. It was not only politicians, it was also like artists. I think we had Monetочка, Oxymoron, who is now very controversial because of the recently appeared accusations of sexual misconduct, let's put it like that. But it was different people. It was on the next slide, I believe. It's Ekaterina Osipova. No, Lyubov Sobol, she is a politician. And the next one would be Yelena Osipova. Yes, she is a St. Petersburg artist. I think she was alive during the blockade of Leningrad. So yeah, students also wrote a little bit of a biography. If it was an artist, selected their favorite works, favorite quotes. And again, it's also this time it was just a Google website, and students reported that they were really excited to work on this project. So it was much more fulfilling to have it somewhere online available up until now. I mean, still available, than just kind of writing maybe and submitting it to the teacher and maybe get it back, I don't know, printed copy with a grade. They said that they enjoyed kind of seeing more of a tangible result of their work. And the next slide is just some projects that I do. So one that I finally launched, I called it Encyclopedia of Russia under Putin. I can share the link for you as well. It's basically a living archive of things that are connected to Russia under Putin. The next slide, I believe, shows the three main parts of it. It is Putin speak, a dictionary of repression, that is, words that are being made up in Russia under Putin, with the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And before that, it's collections of control and resistance. Mostly it's just lists of media, like state-backed media, independent media, and other things. And then Real Russia, database of teaching materials. This all is, including teaching materials, will be, as I upload them, is and will be available for free. So it's like it's totally accessible, entirely for free. One of the parts already posted to the Real Russia part is on the next slide. It's the law library of Russian language memes. I used memes a lot in my classroom with some of the teachers that are also into memes. One of them, Dr. Williams, from mine, Tanya's school. And the next slide will be like what they look like. So it's a collection of memes. I think right now I have around 100, and I try to upload 10 or 15 every week. They all are tagged with like the kind of vocabulary they have, the kind of grammar they have, and other things such as, sometimes it's something that has to do with social media, sometimes it's something that has to do with like, I don't know, propaganda or something else. What else do I have there? Just like random like cats or animals or clothes, things like that. And another project that I'm working on, it's not released yet. It's the next, like if you click it, will be the next image. So I called it Ulanova. As you see, I like calling things, I love long names. So this is like a digital library of Russia's native peoples. Again, it's not online yet, so I can't really share it. I can only just show what it looks like, kind of, in the making. This is where I have like a page or, like an archive, I don't know, like bulletin page for every of Russia's globally recognized subjects. I mean, of course, it does not include Crimea or any of the occupied territories. It's only just the globally accepted, globally what's the word? Well, accepted territories. And for each of the pages, for each of the regions, there is, of course, like a little card with information like population, languages, religious, something else. There is a list of a tentative list of literature, writers, poets, list of films, other like artistic pieces of artistic creation, as well as history and folklore. And with this project, I hope to again bring awareness to like Russia is a extremely multinational, rich, culturally, ethnically rich place because from my experience in 99% of the Russian books and Russian courses, it's going to be people that look like me, people from Moscow, white, cisgender, heterosexual people. But again, like going back to this project, it's going to be mostly just white people from Moscow, St. Petersburg, maybe Yekaterinburg or something, but they're still going to be white. And that to me is completely wrong because we have so many different peoples and cultures and legacies. Yeah, and I think just from my personal experience, I feel fulfilled. I feel like I have an outlet for creative, I don't know, for my creativity, while also collaborating with other students and professors, while producing something that is already being used by students of Russian or again teachers of Russian and through mostly the encyclopedia project of course of Russian to Putin, I build new connections, networks of people, and again like the two other projects that I showed, the Art for Peace one and the Encyclopedia of Russian Opposition. These were some projects that were allowed to, thankfully, allowed to integrate into the teaching of Russian and something that students said they really enjoyed. So I strongly believe in the power of like graduate student engagement beyond the curriculum. And yeah, very, very much encourage mentors to also encourage and allow your students, graduate students, to express themselves creatively like this, creatively and academically like this. And I want to encourage graduate students to also explore various facets of their academic interests, research interests, through, some like through all sorts of creative and academic projects that can be useful for themselves, useful for a wider community of students, or other graduate students, or undergraduate students under their supervision, right? And to professors and just the entire academic community. And I believe this is all on my part. So thank you
This
so
is
much.
fantastic, Diana. I am very inspired by your projects. This is so awesome.
Great. Inspired is the word I want to hear.
For sure, 100% inspiring. Okay, and this was Yes. We
Um,
continue with graduate student engagement. And Natalia, I think I give the word to you.
Yeah, I will also say a few words to add a few words to what Diana has already said, but I will focus mostly maybe on, I wouldn't call it academic engagement, maybe to some extent academic engagement, but beyond the regular curriculum that students have at the universities. And since I've been involved in the work of two graduate student committees in ECTR and Aselle, I started thinking about, how to assess graduate student needs. And to me, that was very challenging because for several months already, semesters, I would say, we've been organizing different initiatives, and I definitely noticed that graduate students valued some expert opinion or expertise, especially invited speakers with more expertise. How to, find that expertise, it's probably another question. That's why I decided to check some, what research says on that. Found one probably inspiring to a recent article that I found useful. You can see it on that slide that to some extent proves my assumption that, yeah, graduate students do need to know about funding opportunities, especially job search strategies, how to build professional network, um, what another maybe opportunities for another job opportunities like involvement outside academia, and for those who do social sciences, of course, data analysis is very relevant. Um, as for some resources that might be relevant to read, you can see the book cover on the right. This is what my program, the second language program at UW-Madison, tried to not just share it with its graduate students. And even though the book says its primary audience is applied linguists, I think the scope is quite broad, and many people might find it useful because it actually covers a lot of, maybe basic concepts, and not only basic, very important and relevant issues in a very good way without maybe necessarily telling everyone that applying for tenure track positions is the only goal of graduate school. So I would definitely recommend this resource. And maybe what I also noticed with maybe working with coming graduate students and more like senior graduate students, I would definitely maybe encourage everyone to collaborate because to some extent, again, based on my experience, I noticed that students maybe don't want to or want to collaborate less with peers than with maybe senior faculty members, for example. But I do believe in peer collaboration, and especially at least starting conversation about mutual interest that can lead to potential, conference presentations and share outs or even publications. Then I would also encourage maybe graduate students to join professional organizations and even their local university-based student graded organization, because to some extent people don't see its value from the get-go, but it can be valuable later because first it helps you connect with peers, it helps you know your program better, and later potentially it, for example, helped our program, our student organization to apply for a grant to attend a conference. So the entire cohort, just because it was a part of a student organization, applied for a grant, and basically the university-based grant sponsored our trip to a conference. So this is definitely something that I would encourage people to consider. And if your department is big enough and maybe has the potential to organize an event, a conference, please do that. Say that you want to do that. It's totally different experience, involves a different set of skills, but expands your expertise and your professional profile also to a great extent, and actually also gives you a chance to apply for grants to fund these events and learn acquire some grant application skills, maybe at the lower level, but knowing the basics is still very valuable and very, I would say, encouraging, and will definitely pay back later. That's it
So
from me.
I would like to continue what Natalia already said, but more focusing on what we do in the ACTR Graduate Student Committee. And me, Natalia, and Emil are on this committee, and it was started in 2024. The aim of this committee is to build the bridges between the graduate students and between the more senior colleagues and the graduate students. Natalia, maybe could you please talk about our между собойчики?
Oh, I can, say a few words. So this is monthly meetings organized by graduate students for graduate students, and it's kind of my God, we are doing that for ACTR, and sharing it, advertising it widely through the ACTR network and also through other sources or mailing lists, especially if we have a chance to invite speakers and offer some professional development opportunities. And basically, we cover a wide range of topics from, again, professional development in academia, balancing your work and life, teaching, mentoring, and I think career planning, and not data analysis, definitely not. But definitely different aspects related, many aspects related to the graduate student life.
Yeah, the main event of the fall 2024 was our. Oh, by the way, yes, I forgot. I wanted to let our audience know that there is our last между собойчик of the spring semester. It is next week, 2nd of May, 5:30, and we will be talking about navigating the demands of TA and dissertation writing. But yes, in the fall, our main event was the Summer Career Fair. We organized this event in October, and this is one of the kind event. I'm pretty sure there was no such thing before. So the aim was to bring together the summer programs that exist in the Russian field and potential job places for graduate students. And as you can see from this slide, we had a good variety of representatives, and it was pretty informative. So about one thing that I want to mention very quickly about graduate student engagement and bridge building, I wanted to showcase our results. This is the membership summary, and I had the whole table of other groups like professors and lecturers, etc., etc. But I'm allowed to share only about the graduate students here. And when our graduate student committee just started, we had 52 members, graduate student members. But in a year later, we already had 69 graduate student members. So this is a big growth for our field. I know maybe for for someone who would see these numbers would be like, okay, this is not a big growth, but for the field of teaching Russian, this is a big growth, and I'm very proud with our work. Kudos to my co-chairs Natalia and Emil.
Well, Aselle is the person that leads the sheep. So like, oh, the sheep. Sorry, I can't speak normally anymore. Okay.
Okay, Emil, I think it's you.
Yeah, so basically it's not just the numbers, right? That it's not just like the number of like memberships that the graduate students have within the organization or like the kinds of events that we organize. So we can just say, yeah, it's great. Like we can reflect on them and be like, yeah, we're so proud of the work that we've done. But we also want to share that it's not just like our feeling about the events that we organized so far, but it's also like the response and the resonance. A response from the participants and the resonance our events have had with their interests and their needs. So here we have responses from our summer career fair. So we had quite a few people that attended. Not everyone obviously filled out the survey, but I think Asel and Natalia, you can correct me. There was like 50 or 60 people, no?
53, yes.
53 people. So like we had quite a few people that attended the summer fair. And I mean, it's also kind of like takes us back to the conversation about funding, because we know that a lot of us do not have summer funding. So we have to look for these jobs outside our institutions because there may not be jobs available to us, especially if you're an international student, because we cannot apply for federal study programs. And you have to find like jobs in different programs, and you apply for CPT and things like that, right? So you would be pretty much familiar with that if you're an international student. So there was huge resonance. And as you can see, we here we have like different questions and data for all those questions that we gathered. So people that attended our fair thought it was very easy to register, and they found out about the fair from a lot of different sources. And obviously we don't have all 53 people that responded, but we at least have 12. So I think that's still better than nothing. But here we can see that there are different channels for which people find out about our events because we try to advertise them as widely as possible. And ACTR announcement is pretty wide. And most everyone found the event to be very, very informative, right? So we got only 1.4, but it's still pretty good. And people are very interested in attending our future events, which has proved to be the case ever since. And here you can see some of the things that graduate students like us really want us to do for the community, because it again takes us back to this idea of bridge building and, you know, collaborating and working together. And what Natasha said about graduate students working together is very, very important, because we're doing these events for ourselves, for our community, and the community that we support, and the community that we are also building, because oftentimes, unfortunately, graduate students are kind of left out of certain conversations, and we just want to bring in those conversations. So here you can see that some people are interested in having like a book club or workshops on how to write a cover letter. And actually, we did have a workshop on how to write teaching philosophy just a month ago, and we had Dr. Karen Evans from Maine as our speaker, who talked about how to write your teaching philosophy statement for teaching jobs and research jobs that may have a teaching component within our field and beyond. So different events about, you know, like such like secrets of teaching languages to students with learning disabilities, different opportunities across the United States for teaching Russian. But as you can see here at the very bottom, someone said that the meetings of similar formats should take place more often. So they do think that it's very important to have this, you know, kind of like, oh, hi, there's a cat. Diana has a cat. So it's very important to kind of keep these kinds of events going because graduate students respond to them very well, and they feel like they can really feel supported. And I think it's great that we have a platform like that. And I also want to say we're really grateful to Susan Cresson at ICTR for kind of bringing us all together and kind of supervising us and working with us. So we really, really appreciate her help and her support as we expand our repertoire of different events. Yeah, I think that's the last slide with the data. So
Yeah. So now we switch into a different topic, and I give the floor to Tatiana.
Okay, hi everyone. I do love today's presentation. I really, really enjoy it. And today I'd like to explore a seemingly simple yet profoundly impactful aspect of language education as dedicated TA spaces in Slavic departments. And before organizing this roundtable, I conducted like a small research on how widespread it is and how much departments care about space for grad students and TA students and how it affects teaching process. And surprisingly, the literature on this topic is sparse. So, while our shelves are full of books and on how to teach, we rarely see resources on how to care for those who teach, especially TAs. And if you have any relevant sources, I'd greatly appreciate you sharing them during our discussion. Okay, next slide, please. So as a master student at U of A at the University of Arizona, I observed like significant variations in how Slavic departments prioritize collaborative zones for TAs, and the infographic I'm sharing illustrates both the structure and benefits of these intentional spaces. And my presentation today addresses two fundamental questions: who constitutes an effective TA community, and what tangible benefits do TAs derive from thoughtfully organized shared spaces? So looking at this infographic, you can notice that TA community comprises both native and non-native Russian teaching assistants, represented in red and blue. So we bring diverse cultural perspectives, varying language proficiencies, and of course different pedagogical approaches. The skill columns, like bridging these groups, represent the continuous exchange of expertise that occurs naturally in these spaces. When I first arrived from abroad, from Russia, I faced this dual challenge of adapting to American academic culture and, of course, navigating language barriers. The TA space became my safe zone for professional integration. And similarly, non-native speaking TAs often express insecurity about their Russian proficiency. And I believe that a dedicated TA space transforms these potential vulnerabilities into catalysts for mutual growth. So the green arrows highlight 6 critical functions that make TA spaces effective. First, of course, community building. It creates, TA spaces create a sense of belonging and shared purpose. Rather than isolated instructors, we become a teaching team. And even again, from my experience, when I arrived, other TAs, and one of them is here, Diana, like oriented me to department functions, department functions and teaching materials, and in general, university systems. And this is a really invaluable experience that formal orientation sessions alone couldn't provide. Second, strategic office hour pairing deliberately schedules native and non-native TAs together. This semester, I supervised a first-time TA during our shared office hours, helping with planning and materials. And this approach efficiently enables class preparation and professional development, and of course, student support without requiring additional time commitments from already busy grad students. Third, the emotional support framework, of course, addresses the anxieties of early teaching experiences, particularly during the critical first week's adjustment period. You know that a healthy, respectful community directly enhances both performance and mental well-being throughout your graduate program. Collaborative materials development, allows us to create more culturally authentic and pedagogically sound resources. Those familiar with American academic expectations help those without such experience appropriately calibrate student workloads, drawing on their recent experience as students themselves. Fifth, it's of course peer mentoring. Peer mentoring creates organic professional development where experienced TAs share classroom management strategies while newer instructors contribute fresh perspectives and innovative approaches. And finally, the last one is coordinated communication. This one ensures consistent messaging to students and to both students and professors because we're all in the same department, and efficient problem solving throughout the department, of course. And the ultimate beneficiaries shown on the left of the infographic are our students. When TAs feel supported and continue developing their skills, students receive higher quality instructions from confident and well-prepared instructors, teachers. I would say, like, to conclude my observation, my thoughts, by reimagining standard TA offices as intentional environment for collaborative growth, departments can significantly enhance teaching quality without requiring additional resources and, of course, time. And this model demonstrates how physical spaces can be leveraged to create meaningful professional communities that benefit the entire educational ecosystem. And even if the department is not that big, because Slavic departments in the US, they are, especially now, they're not really huge, right? It still can benefit to our professional development. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. Oh, that's it. Yeah, before we open the floor for discussion, I think I wanted to connect the dots, and I wanted to thank our panelists for their insights. It was very inspiring, and I took many notes today.